Hi, Edie. Nice to see you again.
Oh, hi, Deborah. How are you? Good seeing you too.
I'm doing well. I'm glad that we had an opportunity to connect and make this video because I've just been looking for ways to be able to provide some kind of support to the people who are working so tirelessly in the seniors care sector. And that's my client base, people that I work with, and an industry that I worked in at a corporate level for over a decade. And as you know, I mean, you're going through your own chaos living in New York City. And here in Ontario, dealing with the crisis with COVID-19 and just some really heartbreaking situations that are happening in that environment. And so what I wanted to be able to do is have a conversation with you today about how you've got some really great approaches and ideas about how to be able to create moments of calm in the chaos. So I just wanted to tee that up. And if you could just take a few moments to introduce yourself and let people know a bit about your background, and then we can get into these really great practical strategies that you have.
That's great. So it's really good to be here today. And my name is Edy Nathan. I work in the area of grief, trauma, and loss. Actually wrote a book on grief called It's Grief, The Dance of Self-Discovery Through Trauma and Loss. And grief and trauma are certainly ways that we get to learn about ourselves. And it is a point of self-discovery. And perhaps COVID-19 and this pandemic that we are all experiencing allows us to meet parts of ourselves we never knew existed.
So, and I just want to jump in, Edie, that you're a psychotherapist, correct?
Yes, I'm a psychotherapist, private practice in New York. I also do groups and public speaking on all the different kinds of grief that we face. And we are really facing so many different kinds of losses. And senior care is facing multiple types of grief. And part of the grief is exactly what you're talking about, Deborah. It's chaos. And grief can make our brains go haywire and cause us to feel things and think things that we never thought we'd feel or think. Have you found that?
Yeah, and I've heard you use the expression spaghetti brain. I think that, for people who our routines have been so uprooted that can create some feelings of uncertainty and instability. And then people who are working in seniors care or anywhere in healthcare where they're crazy busy, they still have some routine, but everything is heightened and accelerated. Right. And they're bringing in new policies and processes and protocols. It seems to be on a daily basis that they need to keep up with, as well as just the incessant pace that they're dealing with. And as well for individuals working in seniors care, the worry and fear about their own health and well-being as they're working in a high-risk environment.
That's right. That's right. And all of those are contributors to a sense of trauma that's going on in the body, especially if there's no way to find a release. And what we know is that trauma doesn't, and grief doesn't just exist, as emotions or in our brains. The body also gets affected. So I really try to look at grief and working with grief and working with the tension around it as a three-pronged approach. We're going to deal with the brain, we're going to talk about the body, and then there's the psyche, the emotions, the unconscious and conscious things that go on within us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the practical stuff. And I've had the opportunity to work with through some of these exercises with you. So why don't we start with the breathing? You talk about that, and I've written about that in my book, Recipe for Empathy. So start us off there.
Okay. So the value of breathing, and we think that we're breathing. I mean, we are. We wouldn't be here, obviously, if we weren't breathing, but there are different kinds of breath. And one of the ways that you can kind of just let your body know that you're thinking with it, that you're in harmony with it, when there's all this chaos going on, is taking 3 good deep breaths. And those 3 good deep breaths can just be a breath in, hold it, and out. A breath in, hold it, and then out. and then a breath in, hold it, and then out. And what you've done is you've let your body know that you're communicating with it. The next step to that, and you can build on this, and you can do that at any time. You run to the bathroom, do 3 deep breaths. You scarf down some lunch. Some people say a prayer before lunch. Maybe create a ritual around taking 3 good deep breaths before and after you take that bite. You might not feel like you've got the time, but maybe you do have the time just for those 3 short breaths.
Well, it's like anything else, right? I mean, you have to breathe anyway, so just
Yeah.
be more intentional with it. And
Yes.
it's probably
Yes.
a total of 10 seconds. And from the research that I've done, as I understand it, also when you do take that moment or be intentional with those deep breaths, you're signaling to your body and to your brain that you're safe.
Yes. Yes. And we're not feeling safe.
Mhm.
Just look at the way we have to dress, especially if you're working in senior care living. You've got the mask and you've got the gown and you've got the gloves, and you may still not be feeling so safe, and it may create some fear within you. Those 3 deep breaths actually do communicate to the body so well. And let's take that exercise a little bit further, okay? So you're aware that you're feeling even a little bit more stressed. Maybe a headache is coming on, or you're noticing that you're clenching your jaw. What I'd like you to do, and you can do this with your hands down. It doesn't have to be up here, but I'm just going to show it to you. You clench your fist just like this. Would you do it with me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. And now what I'd like you to do is take in a breath and hold it. And hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, and then just let it go. Now that was 5 seconds. What did you notice?
I noticed I had to be really present,
Yeah.
right? Doing that, and that feeling of the tension and just holding everything together, and the release that it was calming. But
Yeah.
what I really noticed was just that it really forces you to be present for those, what you said, 5 seconds?
It was 5 seconds. It was 5 seconds because the count was 5.
Right.
1, 2. So all we're saying is 5 seconds. And those 5 seconds can make a really big difference to the amount of stress you're experiencing, and actually the internal chaos that Deborah, you've been talking to and addressing.
Well, and it almost feels like it can be a form of a reset, particularly if you're working crazy busy and you probably don't even notice that your shoulders are up here and feeling that tension, to actually force your body into a position of that tension for that short period of time, then you're intentionally releasing it.
Yes, that's right. And having that intention, believe it or not, the more you do it, you could actually just think about the exercise, and you'll get the relief. And that's what doing it is all about,
Yep.
is do it, do it, do it. And then once you do it, and then you do it enough times, it becomes second nature.
Mhm.
And then you can affiliate a scent to it or a memory to it. And you just go there for those 5 seconds, and you get a sense of relief.
Right. Great.
The third one, and there are so many different exercises, but it is an exercise of presence. So if what you're noticing is that you're feeling exceptionally afraid, you're feeling overwhelmed, in those moments, just look around the room for a moment and concentrate on the little things around the room. For example, maybe you see the edge of someone's bed, or you notice a strand of hair, or you look down at your hands and you just start to count the big lines on your hands. What that does, that super hyper focus, is it moves you out of the situation that you're in, that sense of chaos and that sense of anxiety. And anxiety is one of the phases in grief that people can get stuck in. And we might not think of it as grief, but anxiety can definitely be a grief reaction. We're yearning for something.
No, what that makes me think about, Edie, is when we're feeling like we're so out of control, because there's a lot of things that are outside of our control.
Yes.
To be able to choose where to put your focus on those things that you can, which is the ability to make these choices,
That's
right?
right.
Have control over deciding to take a few seconds and to notice those things around me to pull me into the present. Or I'm choosing to take those 3 deep breaths to help ground myself so that I don't end up feeling overly reactive because of the stress. and that, say, focusing on what you can have some control or influence over.
That's right. And you talk about control. We can't control what's going on with COVID-19. And as healthcare workers and administrators, new information is coming in every day. So what the plan was yesterday, the plan is different today, which means there's got to be spontaneity and flexibility. And it's very hard to be flexible and spontaneous when we're feeling imploded upon, when we're feeling stuck, when we're grieving. Because again, that spaghetti brain, it's very hard to feel that you've got that internal flexibility. So these stabilizing exercises really help to stabilize, to get you to a place of calibration while you're in a very confusing time.
Yeah, and when you say that, I think about with all of the new information coming in, there's also a lot of decisions that need to be made by people everywhere, but we're talking specifically about people working in seniors care. And I think sometimes people can start feeling decision fatigue, right? And so I was just curious about what your thoughts would be around, if someone starts feeling like there's just so many different changes and so many different things, and I have to keep making all these decisions and implementing so many things. And even as I talk about that, I'm talking really fast because that's probably how they're thinking.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And they're thinking this fast. And believe it or not, that is part of grief, is that sense of really being kind of, it's an hysteria, and it's a place of what I call emotional armor. It's like that talking fast, it keeps you away from what else might be going on. Yeah. And it's mirroring something that's happening internally, whether it's fear or anxiety or anger or frustration or just doubt or isolation. Because you and I talked about this, I don't know, a couple of days ago, about isolation and how isolating it can feel for many administrators and healthcare workers on the front line, that they're isolated working and they're isolated in the decision-making process.
Yeah. So it sounds like, if we're looking at some simple techniques, the things that you've just shared today, even when somebody's feeling overwhelmed or in that decision fatigue place, it is giving your brain and your body a bit of a reboot kind of thing, a reset, to be able to do those things. It doesn't mean that everything that needs to be done still needs to be done. But it's almost like sometimes we just need to dial it down for a few moments to be able to recoup and recover.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So to your point, these 3 exercises, they are at your beck and call. You can use them at will. No one needs to know that you're even utilizing them. And they give you that sense of, I do have my breath. No one can take that away from me. I can grab hold of my hands. I can hyper focus on things around me. And those are in my control when the world around me may feel like it's not, and it isn't.
Yeah. Just to switch gears, there was an AASK acronym.
Yeah.
That I would really like you to share.
So this ASK acronym is, number one, we need to ask. We need to ask ourselves where we are. But we are also, because things in this world of senior care can feel very transactional, this is a way to move out of that sense of being transactional. So it's ask, assess, which allows you to kind of look around and see what's needed. It's to stabilize, maybe some of these exercises, okay, which can really help to stabilize what's going on for you. And if you are stabilized and calibrated, guess what? That filters through to other people and the residents. And then to be kind. Kind to yourself, kind to the others around you, because when you're kind to yourself and you do that self-care, then you will have the bandwidth perhaps to get out of that sense of being transactional and back into the role that you love,
Yeah.
which is being a caretaker.
So it's the ASK. I have to be careful how we say that. The ASK acronym is assess, stabilize, kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a simple thing to be able to remember.
Yeah. ASK, assess, stabilize, kindness.
Yeah, love it.
And even if you're out there and you somewhere on your body, or maybe even on your phone, when you look at your phone, you just look at ask. Oh, okay, wait, let me assess myself. Let me stabilize myself. Let me be kind to myself, which is giving yourself a good message. Wow, I'm brave, or here I am, or I don't need to be transactional. I can still have my heart in this work.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks, Edy. This has been really helpful. And I mean, I think all of us can benefit from some of the advice that you've shared today as we continue to navigate through the uncertainty that we're dealing with. And I think all of us can benefit by seeking and taking advantage of those little moments that we can create, that we can choose to create calm in amongst the chaos, whether it's COVID-19 or other situations that are creating chaos for us. So thank you so much. I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Thank you.
Okay,
Talk
take care.
soon.